Wonderful. So here we go. So that story I just said to you, it talks about your power and your access and what you can do as a leader in the classroom. There are many ways to disrupt. I literally want to start this quick conversation by saying that. Thank you for those stories. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for your heart in saying, we need to disrupt this, Dr. ABC. And I'm telling you, I agree with you. They are made, but I want to give you the tools that there are many ways to disrupt. And as we get into this conversation about racial justice in urban education, teacher education, it's about you. And I love that we started the morning with that beautiful presentation on racial bias because a lot of us feel like we are so beyond racial bias. I guarantee that if you say to 7 people today or 10 people, oh, we had a beautiful lecture this morning from our TA about racial bias, people go, ugh, are we still talking about racial bias? Yes, we are, because it's alive and it's well. But watch me carefully what I'm gonna tell you. But people are making decisions every day based on these biases. That is why it's important. That is why that lecture this morning was so good. That is why it was so relevant, because we have to check ourselves. So, what's some of your first memories living involving race? What is your race or someone else's? We talk about this. I'm sure you were surprised about the piggyback on the lecture, because when you think about the activity that you just did in your reflective activity about the circle of trust, think about conversation opportunities that you have had. Where did you hear about certain things? We're still having in schools right now. We just talk about Christmas and holiday and Kwanzaa and different things that people are celebrating, and no holidays and who should observe, and schools and all these spaces. You have to understand that as an educator, you create those spaces. You nurture those spaces. You build those spaces. You actually correct those spaces. Oh, yes, you have those power. You are going to realize your classroom will be a different classroom from the classroom next door, because you are going to have that level of racial literacy that another person does not possess. We all do not possess it. And when you walk into a class and you possess this racial literacy, you are way more equipped. Your toolbox is stronger to deal with certain things. And so as we're doing this, I love to use these 3 slides. There are 3 slides coming up that I want you to look at very, very carefully. The first one is this one. I wish I could say to you, the classrooms you're going to be in, the issues of equity, race, racism, anti-Black racism, issues of war, violence, topics of colonial stories, colonial truths that have been hidden, erasure, you name it. Missing and murdered indigenous women, race, you just name it. I can tell you, we wish it would be this easy. We just jump into our conversation and we just live our best life, and we just do. I wish this was how it's gonna be. But here is what the reality is when you walk into the school, Aliyah. Aliyah, here comes the reality. This is what the discussions are going to be like. This is what it's going to be like. The issues, Andrea, they are tangled. As you come out of, let me give you a good example. We just had a conversation about Christmas, holiday, money, value, access, opportunity, classism, all that happened just now at that one holiday. But guess what? You know what's coming up next? It's going to be Valentine's Day. And you're going to be like, Dr. ABC, Valentine's Day has nothing to do with these children. Oh, where did you go to school? You're going to hear issues and drama and conversations. And before you know it, it's going to be Easter. But we're in school, it's a holiday, right? No, but people celebrate Easter. And then we're going to talk about the Orthodox Easter holiday, because you're going to teach at a school like what I've been to, where there's a Greek, major Greek body. They won't be at school that day, Andrea. They will all be absent. So what do you do? What do I do, Mr. Campbell? Well, I don't know. You're going to figure it out when you go to that school and the kids are absent. What are you going to do? Teach all day and they miss this class and make that almost like you're punishing them for celebrating and honoring their identity? We're not going to be doing that. Or are we? Because it's not a registered public school holiday. So there's a lot of tension. I want you to be okay with the tension. That's why for me, I love the question you asked this morning because I want those kind of tensions to come up because they are real. These are what we talk about: brave conversation, courageous conversation. That's a topic right there. It talk about brave conversations, courageous conversations. We like to use the word brave and courageous conversations until they get brave and courageous. And let me just make it very clear. I hope you all realize that universities and colleges are doing stuff and having conversations about how to curtail, how to measure. They're saying no, but really, there are a lot of conversation in the leadership spaces in universities and colleges around how we govern, how we execute, how we develop courageous and brave conversations. And I hope you're aware of that. I hope you're honest enough to see that happening around you and realize you're a part of that. There are teachers who are feeling right now very silence in their school boards. There are spaces you go, if you open your mouth and you say the word Gaza, well, school is over. The meeting is over. It's done. I'm sure somebody's going to call you in an office somewhere to have a conversation. Even now, in this very lecture, when I open my mouth and I say the word Gaza, I am sure there are one, two of you who maybe your body muscle contract or expand a little bit or whatever. We use a scientific word. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. These are the conversations that are happening, whether we like it, yes or no. But I don't need to go there. I could say Trump. I could say Sudan. I could say Congo. I could say Haiti. I could say trans lives. DR.ABC, what are you talking about? I am talking about the things that are happening within our schools that as educators, we are automatically a part of those conversations, whether we want to hide it, yes or no. I've said it to you before, and I'm glad we're recording this for you to reflect on. I've said to you before, my most racist memory of a school experience that happened to me happened in a school, after school, in a passageway by a janitress. No, it wasn't a police. It was a janitress. Okay? And my second worst experience was at RBC Bank. It was by the bank loan officer. I want you to understand when we're talking about racial justice literacy, you need to be educated on what's going on. So here is a third slide. This is okay. Don't ever feel like you need to fix everything. Don't ever feel like you need to be pressured to be involved in everything. You are going to get tired if you try to exit every single part of the highway. It's not possible. But here's what I don't want from you either. I don't want from you to park up knowing nothing, try not to be involved in anything, just try to go teach and go home. It doesn't work like that. Because a child in your school is connected to one of those issues. It don't need to be a big corporate circle conversation, but it needs to be that as a teacher, you are aware that your child in your class, your student, is impacted. When we had the Syrian refugee crisis in Syria, and the children were brought to Canada, and they were in hotels, they bused those students from hotels to the schools, and from the schools back to the hotels. I don't need to debate anything on that. I want you to think what kind of teacher you are or would be, knowing that this morning the bus is coming with 25 children who are from Syrian camps, refugee camps. They have come to Canada. They are in a hotel. They are coming to your grade 2 class, and you are going to teach them all day and you are going to send them back to the bus. I do not have an answer for you, Andrea. I don't have an answer for you, Molly, or Jenna, or Maxwell. I want you to think about that. That's all. I want you to think about what happens when you're teaching grade 6 and a child comes to you, trusts you because they love you so much, and tell you about they feel like they are not a girl or a boy or whatever, they're using those language. What is your next move? So I want you to understand, we are not going to flip the table. I feel my energy just shift just now. We're not going to flip the table and slam the door for every single thing because we can't. But we are not going to also sit in silence and hypocrisy either. There are many ways for you to disrupt. An obstacle that remains is the fact that teacher education candidates, I'm talking about you now, those specifically who are being prepared to teach in urban school settings are not sufficiently and consistently encouraged to delve into sustained self-work and to develop their racial literacy during the coursework. That's the truth. That's the truth. There are professors here, even in our spaces, that just would hope everything is just cute and butterfly and nice. We don't want the controversy. We just want a great class and we move on. But what is a great class? I don't know. What is a great class? When we ignore the brave and bold conversations? Is that a great class? What is a great class? When we don't use those words? When we don't want to get into that? We don't want to step into the mess? Is that the great class? I don't know. I mean, you have to tell me. What is the great class? When we ignore one set of our students and pretend like they don't exist? What is a great class? So we want you to understand as educators, your role. The onus is on me. That's why I take my job so serious, Andrea. The onus is on me. It's on the preparation program. It's on CTL 7009 to lead the change that must happen in schools. It's on me, a teacher educator, must take my fair share of responsibility and talk about anti-racist, anti-oppression, equity-focused issues in school. I will always talk about these things. And I'm gonna empower you to say this. I'm gonna empower you right now to understand this. And I'm qualified enough, skillful enough, smart enough how to navigate the spaces. Thank you, Molly. Because I want you to know that your voice, I hope, and I mean this from my heart, I hope none of you ever leave my class thinking, you know what? I just don't want to mess up anything. I just don't want to disturb anything. Let me just go about being the peaceful teacher no, you would have failed me. I did not tell you that. I just want you to learn each school you go to how to navigate it. I want you to learn that you just can't go to school and practicum. True story, true story, true story. And the first day of practicum, you go into the staff room and you hear two teachers saying something ridiculous, and you literally stop them, correct them, give them the sass like, you all get your life together. You all shouldn't be even teachers. Well, we're going to have to move you from that school. We're going to have to move you. And we can't move you from every school to every school. So you have to find out a ways how to navigate that in that same school. If you had listened, thought about what was said, go to someone you trust. Come on now, circle of trust, maybe in or out the school, and say, how do I deal with this as a person with the power dynamics, as a TC? How do I deal with this as a substitute teacher? That's a very tricky one. You think you have no power? You think there's power imbalance as a TC? Wait till you go to the school as a substitute teacher for that one day and want to be called back the next day. Oh, I could get into the politics. So I want you to understand. So here we go. How does racism impact your community? You have to know that. You have to be honest about that. You have to be intentional in speaking about that. A lot of teachers are good at having these conversations when it's general, but when it demands of you certain level of reflection, we get very defensive. How does racism impact my community? How did you feel the first day you saw that you had this fabulous black professor? How do you feel when you hear me slip in and out of my Jamaican accent? Do you wonder if I get a good PhD or not? I've been there. Do you wonder if I'm qualified to teach you? Been there. Do you wonder how did he get this job? Because there are so many great people out there who I know and they can't get a job at the University of Toronto. I wonder how he got this job. Or like the bank manager at RBC, do you question why I'm at the bank? This loan, not even realizing, I do walk in financial stability for years. The assumptions you just learn about, how are they affecting your community? What are your assumptions about race? What are your assumptions about racialized folks? What are your assumptions about black folks? What do you know about anti-black racism? And not just the assumptions and the stereotypes and the biases, but how are we making decisions about and acting on them? I'm going to tell you a very sad story. I taught when I was just at OIS in 2018, and I was teaching research 2 and 1. I taught research 1 and 2 for years. And I never had students who had faced off with me for stuff. They have done it for other professors, but I never had that. Because I think people realize I am not the kind of person that's going to play dead. Don't play with me. I'm not that teacher. Do not. And I'm dead serious about that. You're not going to disrespect me and think I'm just going to play dead. No, I don't play that foolishness. So I got quite a bit of pushback in my evaluation. And I had an evaluation comment that says, I pay all this money to be at the best university and to be in the top program, only to be taught by this person. That's a real comment on Andrew Campbell, my evaluation. I'm actually writing a paper about it. The level of, and I'm not calling it microaggression. I'm talking about aggression, attack, and hate through teacher-student evaluation. So I want you to understand. But here is the good news. I want us to be equipped to be anti-racist. That was said this morning already. I'm almost like I'm doing a review of the first speaker. I'm sure you must mind thinking, Dr. ABC, we are in sync. Yes, we are. And I want you to realize a lot of us are stuck in the fear zone. That's the only reason why. That's why for me, when I talk to my teachers and my TCs, I talk to it from my heart in such a way because I want you to realize you have the golden opportunity to grow. This is a learning zone. Make the mistakes. Yes, I don't need perfection from nobody in this room. What I need from you in this room is growth, learning and growth. Fear not going to help. Because when it comes to fear, you sit in denial of race. You do all what you see going on over in America and all over, all these lies about this and that. You have to understand, how do I become? We want you to be anti-racist, to speak up and to speak out. And when I say speak up and speak out, you can speak up and speak out through your curriculum. You can speak up and speak out through your pedagogy, your classroom practice. Your classroom, Aliyah, should be the classroom where the children says, oh, I'm going to Miss Harrison class. They're having a bad day. You know they're making a beeline as recess comes to come to you or come in your presence. I feel that just now when I said it because I know what it feels like when they're seeking out that teacher. Be that teacher. Watch how you're powerful you're going to be when you're that teacher where the students know, you see them, you recognize them, you respect them, you care for them, and you love them, and you see them. You see race. You see them that they're Indian. You see that they're immigrants. You see that they're that's like a black boy. You see that they came on the bus. You see that they live in the building. You see and you learn and understand that they come from a shelter, that they were labeled refugee. You see them, that they have value. You are not one of those who are into stereotype that realize that because the child is black, he come from. No, you realize that maybe the child who is the most privileged in my classroom when it comes to finances is a black boy. Duh, that happens. Somebody don't know that. You know how many kids come from the continent of Africa and at University of Toronto, and they are well-to-do children. They are very well-to-do, but they don't tell you they're well-to-do because they already assume they came from Africa. So they're on some form of scholarship. And so the first time you meet them, you kind of, I mean, you don't mean any harm, but you kind of maybe want to share your lunch with them. Not realizing they could actually invite you and take you to Joey's, the new Joey's on King Street. I haven't gone there yet, but I hope to go soon. And pay for lunch and give you extra dessert because they have that kind of money. Oh, yes, they have. I dated one. Oh, Dr. Cabby, you did too much. I dated a student, an international student, years ago. That the first day we met, I go, there's something going on here. I go, yeah. And he didn't want to say much, but every now and then something slipped off the helpers and the housekeepers and the business. And I watch his three brothers and they drive and everybody have the, and I go, oh, I got an African prince. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that's how you value that story I told you, just because I want to show you that we have to be careful and we have to learn. And going back to the bias, the stereotype, the assumptions, all of that plays into how we see others. What if we just respect, learn to respect more? And so, how are we doing the journey? The journey to anti-racism has to be happen on many levels. Many levels. I want you to really love this slide. It has to be on many levels. To be anti-racist, the easiest way to start is with your personal reflection. Candidates need that you were talking. I love this author, Yolanda Celia Ruiz. She's absolutely amazing. Candidates need to examine their fear, excavate their biases, and be honest about the racist ideas and practices they know exist in schools. That's it. That's the example we just shared. That's what you just talked about a minute. That you have to see that these are happening in schools. And then we have to gain the racial literacy. Now that we know, we have to gain the racial literacy and develop the skills to disrupt those things as an educator. So I'm not teaching you to go demonstrate and block the street and tie yourself to a building and do a sitting and a sleeping and a lying. I've done some of those. I'm telling you, how do you disrupt from within? How do you disrupt from within? How do you disrupt from within? Right? Wow, thank you for that comment in the box. Yeah. How do you disrupt from within? And so racial literacy in teacher education calls for self-reflection. So we're going to wrap this up by really talking about us. You know, how do we do this work? Becoming interrupters of inequality, inequity, racist, and oppressive practices in school. How do we become those interrupters and disruptors? We start with ourselves. A lot of people are trying to do equity work and have not even examined their own issues, their own personal biases, their own inequities. People with the word title advocate and allies, when they're out of the scene, out of the space, out of the light, out of the glow, they do ridiculous things. That's why we have to keep checking on ourselves. I am very big on how I check on myself. I am not perfect, but I really try to be intentional in how I do my self-check. in how I examine myself, in how I look at what am I doing, how am I doing it, how am I learning, how am I unlearning. I could tell you stories right now of things I have had to unlearn. You'd be surprised. Growing up in Jamaica on a British education system, there's so many things that I have to unlearn. I'm still unlearning. Andrea, I am still unlearning. I am still looking at things and go, that was some foolishness. There's some things that I did as a young teacher back in 1996, 97, 95, and I go, where did I get that from? But I got it from college. I got it from systems that teach me the same way they learn. And you and I have to be the one, Molly. You and I have to be the one, Jenna. You and I have to be the one, Maxwell. You and I have to be the one, David. We have to be the ones who are now pushing against these things in a very intentional way. So, yes, 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 push against the inequities. But there are many ways to do it. Find your strength, find your skill. Like for me, I am a speaker, I am a keynote speaker, I have had the privilege and the privilege and the privilege to speak at so many places. There are times I'm going to do a keynote. I say to you, no lie, Aliyah, and because of the topic they asked me to speak on and the audience, I am driving to this event, and you think something is wrong with me. I am so intense with my energy and my emotions because I tell myself, Andrew, that's me. You cannot go to this room knowing there are 600 teachers talking about equity and just give them the, oh, equity is, this is it. Oh, this is it. No. You know the damage going on in school. You know the hate and the hurt. You're going to have to go in hard. And when you get the mic, you have 60 minutes to speak up. They may not invite you back, but you're going to speak. I, Aliyah, make that decision. And I can tell you, I have, so let me go there with you now. I have been keynote in educational spaces, and when I speak up, I've had inbox said, Dr. Campbell, just so you know, they weren't so happy with you, and you went in, and they felt like, you shouted at them, and you called them out, and you na na na, and na na na, and I go, you want a black man to talk about anti-black racism, and you want me not to talk about how blackness have been destroyed and abused and pushed aside and excluded and cheated and robbed. Oh, you want the Cinderella version? Oh, sorry, I don't do Cinderella version. But I'm okay, Aliyah, knowing I will not get a second invite. Because guess what? You ready for this, Aliyah? There are school boards that have gotten a second invite, third invite, fourth invite, fifth invite, sixth invite, seventh invite. I'm on to maybe my eighth or ninth invite. So different people want different things. I remember the first time I spoke about LGBTQ issues at TDSB, there was all kind of conversation with some magazine write some article saying we are going to tell the children how to have sex and we are telling them they should have two fathers and all kind of foolishness. You thought I'd back down? No. But I'm going to tell you what happened. The way we frame the conversation, we know how to disrupt. It was beautiful. And I've been asked by school boards after school boards to use that same topic, flourishing in all our identities. That's the DR.ABC in school LGBTQ presentation. You can find copies of it on my YouTube page. Flourishing in all our identities. So you have to understand there are many ways for you to do the work. And as we talk about this, I want you to understand the three tenets of literacy, racial literacy. It's a question in the assumptions. We talk about this. Engage in a critical conversation. We just talk about that. And practice reflexivity, which we talk about already. Self. This is what we talked about before. Racial literacy. I'm going to upload the video when I'm done so you can all review it. Important. But I want you to take a note of what is bold at the bottom there, everybody. Critical love. If you ever come to a school board, and maybe you will, because I tell you something so cool, Aliyah. Every time I go to a workshop at a school board and I look in the audience, there's always an empty student who I taught the year before last year or something that says, "That's my professor." It feels good. So I'm not only your professor, but then the keynote is your own teacher. We came from Durham School Board. Two of my students, I turned to the high school and I was like, they was like, "Dr. Kim, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "I am the speaker." And it was like, "Sir, like seriously, we live our best life." But we start with critical love. Care for the people you teach. I'm going to leave something with you right now, Andrea. I'm going to leave a secret sauce. Andrea, I'm giving you alone the secret sauce. Let's pretend nobody's here, just you and I. I'm going to give you the secret sauce. Lead with love. Yeah. Oh, you are going to write me an email one day, 4 years from now. You're going to say, "Dr. ABC, let's go to Joey for dinner. I'll be paying, not me. You'll be paying." And say, "Dr. ABC, you are right. I led some serious drama in the school, but I just led from love. I started with love. I started with love, and it worked." So you don't need to walk into a school on the first day you want to be on the equity committee because you want to disrupt all the foolishness. You could just start by being that teacher that the school and the students and the parents, they start to know something about Miss Andrea. There's something about her, the way she cares for all our students. And so the hijabi ladies in the morning, they're waving to you, Miss Andrea. Oh, I know what that life looks like. I've been there. The new teacher, the new parent who don't really want to ask the grade 6 teacher any question. Somebody said, "Go ask Miss Andrea." You know what I'm saying? You get it. And that parent who is uncertain what's going on, she'll be like, "Miss Andrea, could I speak to you about something?" You're not even teach her child. You're not even her child's teacher. But somehow your love, your respect, your care, your kindness, the way you respect and see the children, they know it's spread. I'm telling you, it does. And you have not gone on one march. You have not lied one time in the intersection of Dundas and Young like I have done. You have not gone into nothing. Your door is not plastered with Black Lives Matter, or it's not plastered with rainbow flag. No, no. I mean, those things are great. But that's not what you started your work from. You started with that care and love and racial literacy because you have that critical love, that critical humility, and you are walking in that critical reflection mode where you understand, watch me carefully, everybody, your power as an educator. You are way more powerful than you think you are as an educator. So continue your scholarly journey, grow, learn, become, improve, get the vocabulary, learn the terminology, read the readers, understand the writing, understand the difference between the different things, understand the history behind it. You are in school, learn your research topic, dig deep, dig deep. They gave you that assignment for those annotated bibliography for a reason, for you to read. For those of you who think you are so slick and you just be like, "Let me just use some online engine to summarize." Well, the engine summarize it. Do you know it? So when it comes to write the paper, you are struggling because you don't know. And if you ask for certain help, I used to teach research 1 and research 2. The moment I read your first paragraph, I know where this is going. Because if you can't tell me the story in an abstract, then I know you don't know what you're doing. I'm checking certain things. I go to your opening paragraph and I go to your conclusion. I jump from the conclusion to the reflection because I need to see if it's flowing. I don't read from top to bottom. No, I don't. I don't. I have open assignment where I start with the reflection. Let me hear what you are saying. Let me see where you're going with this. Let me see how deep you are. And then I go, oh, surface. So let me go to the front of the paper because there's no way you could reflect deep if you could reflect surface if you have written deep. So that, oh, look at that. That's the end. I'm done. Look at that. I am done. I am done. I'm not even finished like I'm done. You know what I'm saying?